Documentary began when the first films were invented by the Lumiere brothers in 1895. The Lumieres created a camera that could hold only 50 feet of film stock, and their films were short, unedited clips capturing the life around them. These were not called documentaries, rather they were called actualities. These actualities would show real-life events as if there was no camera present. The brothers' most famous film, called Un Train à Ravir, simply showed a train pulling into a station. However, audiences were fascinated by these first moving photographs as they were able to see the detail of movement captured by a film camera for the first time. Of the North. The word documentary, as we know it today, was invented by John Grierson to describe the film Nanook of the North, made by Robert Flaherty in 1922. Nanook of the North was the first feature-length factual film where Flaherty captured the struggles of a Nanook man named Nanook and his family in the Canadian Arctic. Grierson would also describe this documentary as a creative interpretation of reality. By this, Grierson meant that Flaherty had cleverly manipulated the truth to make a realistic interpretation in which the audience would believe was true, when in fact most of the footage was staged for the camera in order to make the film more dramatic and exciting for the audience. The smaller camera. The smaller camera and increasingly better technology would continue to evolve many different styles of documentaries. For example, expository documentaries speak directly to the viewer, often in the form of an authoritative commentary employing voiceover or titles, proposing strong arguments and point of view. These films are rhetorical and try to persuade the viewer. The commentary often sounds objective and knowledgeable. Images are often not paramount, they exist only to advance the argument. Historical documentaries in this mode deliver an unproblematic and objective account of an interpretation of past events. Examples of this form of documentary would be TV shows or films like A&E's biography, America's Most Wanted, or Frank Capra's series of Why We Fight. Why We Fight is a series of 7 documentary films commissioned by the United States government for propaganda during World War II, whose purpose was to show American soldiers the reason for U.S. involvement in the war. Participatory documentaries believe that it is impossible for the act of filmmaking not to influence or alter the events being filmed. What these films do is emulate the approach of the anthropologist, participant observation. Not only is the filmmaker part of the film, we also get a sense of how situations in the film are affected or altered by his or her presence. Documentarians such as Michael Moore and Morgan Spurlock would fall under this category. Moore, who had created such documentaries as Roger and Me, Fahrenheit 9/11, Bowling for Columbine, and Sicko, and Morgan Spurlock, who became famous for his documentary Super Size Me. Mentions of the documentary. The development of the mockumentary in film history revealed to audiences just how easy it is to fall under the facade and make us as viewers consider why we place so much faith in documentaries. Although a few existed prior to the 1980s, mockumentaries started to become popular, starting with Rob Reiner's 1984 mock documentary format, This is Spinal Tap. This mockumentary follows a fictional band where Rob Reiner, the director of the film, actually appears in the documentary, acting as the documentarian. Many of these comedy mockumentaries would follow, but in 1999, the common comedy mockumentary would expand to different genres, starting with the horror movie The Blair Witch Project that grossed over $248 million worldwide, making it one of the most successful independent films of all time.
You know what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11,
Oh, I see.
11,
And most of
11, and
the
then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes, be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up,
Yeah.
all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is, if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
With the continued development of technology, the traditional form of documentary has evolved to include a new form of documentary called the interactive documentary. Digital platforms are expanding the field of not only in the terms of the distribution of linear stories, but especially in the production of content created specifically for the web. Interactive documentaries can also be classed into 3 different levels of interactivity: semi-closed, the user can browse but cannot change the content; semi-open, the user can participate but not change the structure of the interactive documentary.
This documentary style is perfect for any content area as it can support all 3 learning styles and can be used by young students as well as their teachers. Some examples of integrating this application into the daily classroom could be during a language or drama class. The teacher could take story making and or acting performances to a new level by adding this technology. Kids could create and express their work using either filmed clips of themselves or stills or online clips. As well, during a history class, the teacher could allow the students to present various historical moments, depending on the unit, through the use of this technology. During a tech or media arts class would be great as well. The teaching, understanding, and expression of this program could be explored in the classroom setting. As well, the creation of how-to videos in any subject area, such as cosmetology, math problems, science experiments, could be created in the classroom using an educational documentary. As well, the teacher could have a weekly movie, for example, Monday Movie Time, going over what's going to happen in certain subject areas. Then, students could present their Friday findings, showing different subject areas over the week and putting it together in an educational documentary that they would present on Friday. Finally, this style of documentary could also be used in the flipped classroom model, as the teacher could create the educational videos using this style for the students to access at home. Brainstorming is crucial in developing an educational documentary. It is the initial stage of planning and creativity where the production of assignment ideas takes place. Without this stage, there would be no foundation. The data research stage acts as the support to all the creative productivity that took place during the brainstorming phase. Depending on the subject area, this is where students will research the specific content necessary for the project. Having this information will give the project the direction. Acting as the blueprint for any assignment, the purpose of creating a storyboard is to allow the creative ideas from the brainstorming stage and the data collected from the research stage to flow together cohesively.
Where students are now encouraged to collect media that reflects their data research as well as their accumulated storyboard. This encompasses their brainstorm depending on the tools used during the media collection phase. Oftentimes, media can be imported with a simple cable. It can be done wirelessly, for example, via AirDrop. So each documentary or each tool can be used differently. Editing the material that you have brainstormed, researched, put together on a storyboard, then collected media for, then imported onto your device is the next step. While editing material, you must keep in mind the goal of the overall project. you must keep in mind the aspects of learning and the objectives that need to come out of the final project. Taking this into consideration, you must also keep in mind the targeted audience and who will be watching this documentary or who will be evaluating the documentary while you are editing. Ensuring that only material that is needed to reach the goal and the objectives of the project is included in the project is the main goal. Making sure that the project is concise and flows is also another priority.
Peer revision and feedback. An important part of the creation process of a film is to receive feedback. At this stage, the film is in its early rough cut stages, and the creator is ready to share his or her work with a group of peers, or even a viewing that might include the entire class. This first run of the film is important and acts as a formative assessment that allows for adjustments to be made to ensure a successful film at the summative stage. At the feedback stage, the creator is asking the viewers to review the movie. It is important here to know exactly what they liked and what they didn't like. According to what they tell you, you may have to go back to editing and fix what needs to be fixed. This potentially, but not necessarily, means reshooting footage or adding new scenes.
Its purpose is to showcase the completed work of the students and how each of the stages in their refined states is able to amount to an entire educational documentary.
Creating a documentary and using technology is a great way for students to engage in school activities, inspire creativity, express themselves, and communicate in a modern way. The creation of filmmaking also incorporates important skills such as teamwork and communication. Creating a documentary provides opportunity to be more inclusive by accommodating to a wider range of learners. For example, students that struggle with the traditional form of education, where communication is often assessed by oral and/or written work, may become more engaged with an assessment that incorporates physical activity or the arts. This form of activity is also more inclusive to English second language learners by providing them an opportunity to take an equal role in the creation of a documentary, or by creating their own film using their native tongue. Documentary film often require incorporating multiple units of the arts curriculum that includes drama, music, and visual. Since the arts are part of the curriculum, there is a distinct advantage to incorporate the arts with other core subjects such as math, social studies, and language. As identified in the article, Engaging Students Through the Arts, there is a connection between students' higher achievements in core subjects when the arts are involved, regardless of the student's socioeconomic factors or his or her guardian's educational levels. Let's take, for example, of students incorporating social studies with the arts in making a documentary. Students could work in groups to create, in this case, a mockumentary by applying their knowledge and understanding of the impact of interactions, both positive and negative, between First Nations and New France in early Canada. But in this case, using creativity to make a production that requires them to answer a higher level thinking type of question as associated with Bloom's taxonomy of what the interaction would have been if the roles were reversed and the North American Aboriginal had discovered New France. This task challenges the students to collaborate using a higher element of cognitive learning to create a scene that has no right or wrong answer, thus allowing for experimentation. Incorporating drama into the social studies unit allows the students through role play to manipulate and create a new world and fictional characters. This mockumentary production incorporates the traditional curriculum of social studies, drama, and language, written and oral, and a multimodal approach to digitally enhance and transmit the completed production. This production is also an example of the flipped classroom, where the teacher is removed from the traditional role of solely creating the questions and ideas to a more of a role of a facilitator. The results of this student-led inquiry will lead to progressively deeper questions, more critical thinking, engagement, collaborative work, problem solving, and communication.
Different students can benefit from this documentary style as well by the higher interest that technology produces in the classroom. So a higher interest from the students will therefore lead to a higher learning engagement. It also allows students to learn at their own pace. Kids can rewatch, rewind, fast forward the video, and work at their own speeds. It also brings out different roles and allows them to represent who they are and how they learn. In supporting all three learning styles, it also allows them to bring out possibly a creative side, an analytical side to the way that they think, and all of this can be portrayed through the process of creating a documentary. It also is more accessible to students. Functions such as text-to-speech and different applications help support learning exceptionalities that are present in the diverse classrooms. The creation and process of an educational documentary is also a huge step into the future for these students. The building of lifelong skills is helped in the production of this documentary as they're connected to technology that they'll need to be able to understand and know how to use in the future.